Welcome to an all-new Nevada Newsmakers. I'm Paul Enos, filling in for Sam Shad. Today, we are going to be talking to Stacy Ward, who is a drug abuse prevention coordinator with Reno PD, plus Mideast politics on our Power Pundit panel with Jill Derby, Eric Herzik, and Daela Gibson. That's next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nearly 200,000 Nevadans work in retail businesses, supporting families and the community. Nevada's retail businesses generated over $2 billion in sales tax revenue in 1 year, including nearly $700 million to help our schools. Shop around and see all that Nevada's retailers offer our state.
We're the Retail Association of Nevada, representing thousands of Nevada businesses.
Businesses that work for Nevada.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Here's award-winning Nevada teacher, Jeff Hinton.
One concern about question 3 is that it would increase electric bills paid by consumers. As a teacher, I'm also concerned about how 3 would impact school budgets. School buildings use a lot of electricity. Question 3 would force school districts to pay higher electric bills. That means we'd have less money for classroom education for our kids. Please join our coalition and vote no on 3. Thank you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. We are here with Stacy Ward, who is the drug abuse prevention coordinator with the Reno Police Department. Stacy, thank you for. Do I call you detective, sergeant, or
just Stacy?
Just Stacy.
Yeah.
Okay. Just Stacy. Thank you. Thank you for coming here. Want to talk a little bit about the Take Back program.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, and then I want to talk more about kind of the drug problem that we are seeing here in Washoe County.
Sure. So this Saturday is October 20th. We're hosting our prescription drug Take Back, which is an event that we hold twice a year in the spring and the fall. We've been doing that since 2009, actually. And it's one component of a larger strategy to get at the prescription drug abuse issue that everybody's kind of hearing about in the news nowadays. So what we do is we set up at 7 different sites throughout town, and then we invite the public to bring in any old prescription drugs that they have in their house, or over-the-counter drugs, as well as needles, things like that. And they can turn those into us, no questions asked. They don't have to fill out any paperwork or anything, and we'll destroy those. So what we're trying to get at is just the available supply that sits in people's homes for years and years, and we don't want that to be
what
diverted.
are they? I mean, is it Vicodin, when you go to the dentist?
Yeah.
I mean, I always get a prescription like here. It's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, you don't need that much.
No.
We do get some of that. So we get a lot of non-controlled substances turned in as well, just things like heart medication or whatever that people, their dosage was changed. But we do get about 14% of what's turned in are controlled substances, which are those type of drugs you hear about that might be abused, like Vicodin, Percocet, OxyContin, Xanax, stuff like that.
Xanax seems like a big one now.
Xanax is, yeah, and so we're kind of trying to shift our focus a little bit and talk more about those type of drugs. That's benzodiazepines is the drug category that Xanax is in. They've kind of gotten lost in the conversation about opioids because opioids are attributed to more overdose deaths. But a lot of overdose deaths involve things like Xanax because they're very dangerous in combination with an opioid or in combination with alcohol, which I think a lot of people aren't aware. If you're prescribed that medication, you have to be very, very careful about how much you take and what you use it in combination with.
So, I mean, a kid could think, oh, hey, I got a Xanax, and then he goes and has a couple beers, and I mean,
right.
that's...
Yeah, and that could lead to an overdose, especially in a naive user who doesn't know, what kind of effect it's going to have on their body. But Xanax is commonly diverted as well, and it's popular. We've heard from some of our local high schools that it's the #1 drug that kids talk about that they're using is Xanax.
So where are they getting these? I mean, are they getting it from, mom and dad's medicine cabinet? I mean, is it something they can buy on the street?
Both. So with kids, they tend to start with what they can get their hands on for free easily, which is what's in mom and dad's medicine cabinet, grandma and grandpa's medicine cabinet, or sometimes it might be prescribed to the child themselves and they don't necessarily need it for a medical purpose, or they stop using it and they sell it at school for some extra money. Those drugs are sold on the street as well, so people do obtain them that way, but they can be pretty expensive that way.
How much? I mean,
It depends on the pill. So with things like opioids, we've seen them go for as high as $1 a milligram. So if you're talking about an 80 milligram Oxycontin, that could be $80 for one pill.
Now, it's interesting because that sounds expensive, but I guess, is that driving people towards other drugs? I mean, is that driving them towards, heroin and other?
It's one reason why, yeah. So we're doing some research into that right now to figure out why some people make the transition to heroin and other people don't. But heroin is significantly cheaper on the street than prescription drugs are. So that's one factor. I mean, drug addiction is an expensive habit to maintain for anybody, but especially at those prices, $80 a pill, you can't maintain that for very long.
Is marijuana an issue anymore? I mean, it's pretty ubiquitous. I mean, we see it being sold on billboards, and I mean, is that an issue? Or, I mean, I actually hear some people, using marijuana to replace an opioid addiction.
Marijuana is a big issue. So it is an addictive substance, which I think a lot of people think that it's not. And the marijuana industry kind of indicates that it's not an addictive substance, but in Nevada, we actually have more teenagers in treatment for marijuana addiction than all other drugs combined.
Even alcohol?
So people are getting addicted to marijuana, and that can lead to other drugs, or even just on itself, it can be a very disruptive addiction, that leads to just poor life outcomes.
Yeah, just kind of sapping drive.
Yeah, and with the increased availability of it, younger and younger kids are very confused now. So when I go in to talk to like middle school age kids, they say, well, it's not bad for me, right? I mean, it's legal now, so that means it's fine for me to use it
every
at 10
party
years
I
old.
go to, with people over 60, I mean, that tends to be the topic of conversation is what kind of gummies or oil or, they're on. So, I mean, it's interesting how we've kind of seen that shift.
Yeah, and the edibles especially, those things are very attractive looking to kids. I mean, if it's in the form of a Rice Krispie treat or something, a child's not going to perceive that as a dangerous drug, obviously, because it doesn't look like a drug at all. So that's kind of the flip side, where it's a confusing message for our youth. They can't really understand the dichotomy between it's safe for adults, but not for me. That doesn't make sense to a young kid.
So in schools, I mean, marijuana, it sounds like, is still an issue, but I mean, the other stuff is, tremendously more dangerous because, it can lead to death. So it's Xanax, opioids, fentanyl. That's something that we've heard about, of late. I know there have been some high profile deaths. Fentanyl, where is that coming from? Where's the fentanyl?
So the fentanyl that's attributed to deaths is primarily imported from overseas, from China and other places in Asia. It's not being diverted from pharmacies. It's not really medical grade fentanyl. It's just illicit street fentanyl that's being ordered by dealers and being cut in with other products like heroin, or sometimes just being sold on its own as a standalone product. And it's just, the issue with it is that it's extremely, extremely potent. So a very, very minuscule amount could kill someone.
All right, we are talking drug prevention with Stacy Ward, Reno Police Department. We are going to be right back on Nevada Newsmakers.
Tamarack Junction is South Reno's hotspot with over 450 of the latest slots and video games. Sully's Sports Bar, the Dining Car Restaurant, William Hill Sportsbook, and the Tamarack Steakhouse and Lounge. We're just north of the Summit Mall in South Virginia. Yeah.
At first, I thought we were in love, but then the abuse started. The worst literally almost killed me. When charges were pressed, I had no idea how confusing the legal process could be. But having equal rights to my abuser would have helped me in my understanding of what was happening in my case.
It's a story that happens too often in Nevada, but we can fix it. Question 1 will ensure crime victims are informed.
Giving victims the right to notification and a voice in the process. Crime victims deserve equal rights.
Vote yes on Question 1.
Dean Heller made a promise to Nevada.
I cannot support a piece of legislation that takes insurance away from hundreds of thousands of Nevadans.
But when Donald Trump threatened Dean Heller, he caved. Here's what that means to Nevada.
In 2003, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Under Dean Heller's plan, I could be denied coverage.
I was 45 years old and I had a stroke. I would have been in debt for the rest of my life.
As long as Dean Heller is in office, I am afraid.
SMP is responsible for the content of this ad.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
The Tamarack Junction Steakhouse is known for signature steaks, handcrafted cocktails, and world-class wines. Join us Thursdays and Friday nights from 4:30 to 6:30 in the Steakhouse Lounge for live music, gourmet plates, and well-priced wines, just north of the Summit Mall on South Virginia.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. We are here with Stacy Ward, who is the Drug Abuse Prevention Coordinator with the Reno Police Department. How good are our drug courts? Are they doing a good job of getting people the right services?
I think they are doing a good job, yes. I mean, certain individuals have to be eligible for drug court based on their crime and things like that. For the people that are able to get into that program,
so what makes you eligible? I mean,
I don't know all of the details of that. I mean, it depends on the severity, and I'm sure
do they try to focus more on kids or?
They're wanting to focus on, people whose crimes are obviously just motivated by their addiction, and where addressing the root problem of the addiction may mean that this person becomes a productive member of society and doesn't commit crimes in the future.
We've had a lot of high profile, well, maybe not a lot, but we have had some high profile cases, here in Reno where a lot of the illicit drugs, opioids, are being prescribed by doctors. They're being distributed by other folks throughout the community. Is that a bigger problem than your kind of illicit street dealer? That's I saw somebody a couple years ago. I'm sitting with Sam Shad at a place in Midtown, and I see somebody, of course, right around Burning Man, with a little little package of brown powder, right there in front of the restaurant I was eating at. So, I mean, what do you think the bigger issue is in terms of drugs in Reno?
I would say our illicit drug market is a big issue. And it's not just opioids either. We have big issues with meth here. We have cocaine being used, all that type of stuff
we
is going on.
We used to hear a lot about meth, and I mean, it seems like it's gone away and it's kind of been displaced with opioids. So meth's still an issue here?
It's still extremely common here, yeah. And as far as what law enforcement encounters, it tends to be more meth than anything else. So it's been replaced as far as the public conversation, but not really as far as what's being used.
Does one tend to be more violent than the other? Does one cause more, is meth, more attributed to crime and violence than the other?
It is, because meth, just because it's a stimulant, everything is sped up rather than kind of relaxed, and the patterns of use can lead to people being awake for days and days at a time, and so that can lead to some delusions and some violent behavior where you don't really see that type of thing with opioids. With the crimes that are associated with opioids, I would say it's more just driven by the addiction and needing to obtain money in order to feed the addiction. Even if you're able to maintain a job, that's likely not going to be enough to maintain your drug habit. So in many cases, people have to steal, burglarize homes, things like that, commit robbery if they're desperate enough.
Sure, $80 a pill.
Yeah.
So, going back to methamphetamine, I know a couple years ago, the legislature, we made it very difficult for me to buy, Sudafed anymore, cough medicine, right? I got to go behind the counter now.
Yeah.
So, have we seen a marked decline in any of that? Have any of those things worked, or it's just kind of moved?
We did see a decline in the youth use of methamphetamine, so we don't have as many kids using anymore. And then what the things like the Sudafed regulation targeted was people making meth here in this community. So we used to have mom and pop meth labs, people were making it in their house or their car, and those things would explode on occasion. We don't really see that anymore now that the restrictions have tightened up where it's harder to get the ingredients. People are just making the methamphetamine in Mexico or in big super labs in California and importing it here. People aren't really making it here anymore.
Well, that's
something.
Do you see a trend with the economy and drug use? When you have better economic times, do you have fewer drug crimes or more, or is there no correlation?
It's hard to say because addiction tends to just persist, even if you've developed an addiction during an economic downturn and then things start to look up, you're already addicted to that substance, and so you're going to need to continue to use unless you get yourself into some kind of a treatment program. So we don't see it fluctuate as much as maybe you'd think.
Is there seasonal, or is it just kind of all?
I
always think Burning Man, maybe we see more of that,
Certain types of drugs, yes, can go along with, with Burning Man. We might see more marijuana, more things like psilocybin, mushrooms, ecstasy, stuff like that. But as far as just what's in the community, it tends to be the same.
It seems that when you talk about, marijuana or mushrooms or that stuff, it seems totally tame compared to what, in terms of the public conversation, in terms of, the absolute detrimental impact that some of these other legal drugs could have.
I think it depends on what sort of impact you're talking about. So some drugs have a higher potential for actual overdose death, where other drugs have a higher potential for things like permanent brain function impairment or just addiction that's going to lead to, other drugs in the future or continuing to use for years and years. So it's just different types of impacts where they can't really. I get asked that question by kids a lot when we're giving a presentation, which is the worst drug? And there's not really a clear answer to that. It just kind of depends on what negative outcome you're looking at.
Jim Beam can be the worst if that's
absolutely, alcohol is killing an outrageous number of people, but we don't really talk about that. But that is classified as a drug and has a lot of negative outcomes associated with it.
So Stacy, really quick, let's talk about the Take Back program again, our last 30 seconds. So tell us about that, where folks can go.
So it's this Saturday from 10 to 2. The locations are listed on the Join Together Northern Nevada website, which is jtnn.org. So you can go on there and find the location that's closest to your neighborhood and just come on out on Saturday. Drop off whatever you have. We'll have some educational materials.
Don't flush it down the toilet.
Don't flush it down the toilet, and don't just throw it in the garbage. Just bring it to us, and we'll make sure it all gets incinerated by the DEA, including the bottles, so you don't need to worry about any of that.
All right. Hey, Stacy, thank you very much. This has been very informative, and good luck. Godspeed.
Thank you.
We're going to be right back with our Power Pundit panel next on Nevada Newsmakers.
We will not come out against it. We haven't spent it. We have not spent a dime to fight it. We will not spend a dime to fight it.
That is an NV Energy lie from the CEO. NV Energy is spending $30 million to defeat Question 3, because the more you pay, the more the NV Energy monopoly profits from you. The Review Journal called their No on 3 campaign fear-mongering propaganda.
We will not spend a dime to fight it.
$30 million worth of lies. Break up with NV Energy's monopoly by voting yes on Question 3.
I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and because I represent men in all family law matters, women often call me gender traitor, woman hater, and even disgusting. So why represent men and target myself with these offensive monikers? It's simple. Children with fathers in their lives are 6 times less likely to drop out of school, 15 times less likely to go to prison, and 5 times less likely to commit suicide. So ladies, you can hate me, but please love your children more than you hate their fathers.
Hi, I'm Dave Newman. Remember me? I used to be the house detective, and now I'm a realtor, full-time at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates. A lot of people ask me, how's the market? You know what? It's fantastic. If you're even kicking around the idea of buying or selling, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Call me at RE/MAX Realty Affiliates and just ask for the guy who used to be the house detective, Dave Newman.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take an Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers, our Power Pundit panel. Today, same as yesterday, we have Jill Derby, former chair of the Nevada Democratic Party, Eric Herzik, political science professor at the University of Nevada, Daela Gibson with Planned Parenthood. Welcome back, although we really haven't left since yesterday. But sorry, I'm screwing up the magic for everybody here. So we are taping this on Monday. This morning, President Trump came out with a tweet, hey, talk to the Saudi king, journalist Khashoggi. They did not do it. They didn't kill him. Don't know where he is, but he is sending the Secretary of State there immediately. I mean, it's very interesting this kind of time how Twitter drives the news cycle.
Well, you know, let me say two things. You know, he believed Putin, too, when he was in Europe with that famous tweet. You know, he seems convincing. Of course, the Saudi king is going to say what he's going to say. No, not us. I agree with Marco Rubio, who said yesterday on NBC that, you know, this is a real low point, in fact, if we don't impose major sanctions and pull out and be willing to take away or reduce that sales. You know, we had moral leadership in the world among the nations, and that is fast going. And if we don't have that, what do we have? I mean, we can compete, I guess, with economics and military power. But, you know, the U.S. was known around the world for its human rights values and for the standards and ethics and morals it stood for. And I think to not react very, very strongly to this and
Well, sending the Secretary of State there, don't you think that kind of sends?
No, because the Secretary of State's going to go talk to the king and he's going to say, well, we didn't do it. We think it's some rogue element. Really, of course they're going to say that.
Eric, what do you think?
Well, this is not good for the United States in that we have really sided with Saudis. The Saudis have disproportionate influence on our foreign policy in the Middle East. I mean, they're fighting this deadly war in Yemen. And now they
have implemented some pretty neat reforms. I mean, in terms of how they treat women.
Women might be able to drive now, Paul.
Big deal, yeah.
So
that is, I mean, that's positive steps, right?
A very small step, and it can cover a lot of really negative steps, and a lot of executing this person and sending a team to execute a journalist. Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing
with you on that. But we let women drive.
This is one where, you know, David Brooks, Republican journalist, particularly when Trump first responded, is, well, this is terrible, we're going to get to the bottom of it, and there will be sanctions, but I don't want to end the $120 billion arms sale. And Brooks said something to the effect of, well, I'm used to politicians selling their soul, but at least Trump has put a distinct price tag on his. I mean, this is an outrageous act, if true. The Turks are coming out with evidence, the U.S. is coming out with evidence, and all we get back from the Saudis is, we didn't do it. And I firmly said I didn't do it. And as Jill said, he did the same thing with Putin. I mean, we've let things kind of go sideways in the Middle East, even though Trump came in and said, I'm going to end ISIS, I'm going to do this.
Well, we haven't ended ISIS.
Syria, we have not ended. We have not ended ISIS. ISIS
they're not the existential threat.
They weren't an existential threat before. But in terms of, well, look at Syria. Well, yeah, Syria is now under control with the Russians. And, oh, okay. And we just kind of let these things go. We have an embassy now in Jerusalem, but that situation is certainly no better. And in a sense, Trump is playing just kind of reaction politics here.
And you have to wonder about his investment, in Saudi Arabia and the financial stake he personally has.
Daela, I want to get you in.
No, I really agree. And it's frustrating when sensitive matters such as this are just, you've got angry tweets at weird hours of the day, and, oh, someone's going to pay. Oh, well, no, I talked to him, and it's fine, he firmly said.
Well, I don't think he ever said it was fine. I mean, he was pretty clear last night on 60 Minutes, with Leslie Stahl, hey, we are looking into this. Yeah. This is something we're going to do. I mean, the fact that, we woke up this morning and had a conversation with the King of Saudi Arabia, and that the Secretary of State is going over there. So, I mean, I don't know that we really do know, what the truth is at this point. I mean, we heard stories about this guy going in and getting chopped up in the embassy on Friday. I don't know if that's been verified yet, or, if we'll ever be able to.
Well, the Turkish intelligence seemed to have some pretty good evidence, and I think we're all waiting for that to come out. I mean, really, what else? When they had the video, I think the Saudis didn't count on all the video cameras that are around.
Oh, gosh,
and
that's so silly. Everybody's got a video camera now.
I mean, they thought they could, fly those planes in and so on and so forth, and act with impunity because of the money they have, and they see that as really their ability to do whatever they want, particularly when it's to take out an opposition voice that's widely respected and listened to.
I will say, thank God that we are now, a net exporter of energy. We do have enough oil that we can produce here and sustain ourselves on, considering what's going on with the Saudis.
But it's our status in the world, honestly, that is suffering so badly. And some wonder, will we ever get it back when we have an administration that's responsible and respects other leaders in the world? Right. One wonders.
Jill, I'm going to leave it with that. I could argue with you all day, but I'm not going to. We're going to be back on Nevada Newsmakers.
A bird's eye captures its surroundings at different heights. At Brian Culpa Photography, we can make your imagination soar over buildings, parks, cityscapes, and beyond. Brian's images tell the story and get the job done. If you need a new perspective to tell your story, contact Brian today. Brian Culpa Photography. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
St. Ives Florist, for every holiday and every special occasion. For romance. Custom home design. We have the largest selection of fresh flowers in northern Nevada. And we also offer a large selection of unique gift items. Come see me, Lori Ann, at St. Ives Florist, 700 South Wells Avenue, or call me at 333-9190.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Tomorrow, veteran reporter Ray Hager is going to be here interviewing candidate for sheriff Heidi Howe, plus a Power Pundit panel. Thanks for watching and listening.